let's get this cracking with this breaking news story of Kawhi Leonard. I mean, what were your thoughts, especially waking up to this? What kind of bombshell this really was?
Yeah, it was a bombshell. It remains to be seen what really comes from it. We're going to get into it, and we know the Clippers have come out with a statement and things like that, in terms of kind of denials and things. But yeah, I think you and I have been talking in the last couple of weeks about just really trying to come up with any basketball topics, because this time of the year there's just not a lot going on. Free agency's done. Obviously the draft last season, and so this is that time where it's kind of like the calm before the storm, and we storm came a little early for us this morning. And so what did you know, the good old Clippers, Steve Ballmer, kind of like that wink wink deal. Kawhi in the summer of 2019 had some options, and we that's been very, very well documented. Him staying in Toronto after winning a championship, him potentially coming to the Lakers, joining LeBron James and Anthony Davis, or joining kind of like, it was kind of the underdog option. And so, yeah, it came out of left field. Pablo Torre, he's a well-respected journalist. He was working on this investigative reporting for 7 months, apparently, where he found that it appears that the Clippers may have circumvented the salary cap. They gave some extra dough to Kawhi Leonard via kind of a bogus endorsement, I guess if you will. And so, yeah, it is pretty interesting. What did you think when you first saw it?
Clippers gonna clip, man. I mean, that was my first thought.
Yeah,
No, to be honest with you, the first thing I thought was Uncle Dennis in 2019. So
grimy.
that's all I could kind of think about. Was I just remember hearing all these rumors about how he wanted a plane. He wanted part ownership of the team. He wanted extra endorsement deals, and these are things that were brought to the Lakers and the Raptors. And I remember the Lakers, Jeannie Buss, responding that that stuff is illegal and we cannot do that. So that's part of the reason why, when you think about when he didn't even have that meeting with Magic, we got frustrated that he just canceled that meeting. Could that have been the reason? We won't know for sure. And I honestly hope that this kind of news that broke is not true, because that's not what we want to see in this league, because that's going to come with a lot of penalties if it is true.
Yeah, I mean, look, like we don't want to sit here and be naive to the fact that, I don't want to say this happens all the time, because it probably doesn't, but there's got to be a little bit of creativity when it comes to contracts. We know the NBA in particular, there's a salary cap. There's X amount of dollars you could spend on a player, and you can't go more. And it's pretty set on their tenure. If you've been with a particular team and you're resigning with them, going to another team, it's pretty structured. And so, yeah, will we find out? Will this kind of open the doors to other things? And maybe it's something that the NBA will not want to really get into? Or will it be as big as it kind of is portrayed to be, where um, Clippers are denying it, but Pablo Torre, the reporter, he's just kind of stating things that he investigated. He talked to 7 former employees of the company. What was it called again?
Aspiration.
Aspiration. And he did they blurred the face. But that person kind of was like, yep, like we were told that this was basically like a bogus endorsement deal to circumvent the salary cap and things like that. And so obviously people can say stuff that's untrue. It doesn't mean everything that is said by an individual means, that doesn't mean that it's true or not, but it just makes you think like what those people would have to gain from it, especially if they're not really choosing to be out there. And so, yeah, I don't know. we'll see. It could be something that's kind of brushed under the rug. But I think it's a little too early to tell. We have one side of the story, and then we have the Clippers saying the exact opposite. And I assume something's going to be found out real soon here, or at least relatively soon.
Yeah, Pablo Torre really went on a deep dive and has been working on this for a long period of time. So obviously
Really
he's getting some receipts that he has. He has people that he's interviewed. So there's probably some level of corruption there. Now the company aspiration is one that's full of fraud, right? So they completely have gone bankrupt and been accused of fraud. And the co-founder Joseph Sandberg has now pleaded guilty, defrauding multiple investors, including Clippers and some other celebrities and things like that. So you got to take that with a grain of salt. That we got a company that is completely scam worthy, committed fraud in that fashion. So I can't 100% say like, hey, this is it. It sounds like it's definitely cut dry, right? Like Kawhi did this, and Uncle Dennis did this, and the Clippers did this. Now you get all you can do is give facts. And the other thing is that the Clippers and Steve Ballmer were fined early back in 2015 for the DeAndre Jordan contract, and they gave him an extra endorsement of $200,000 that they say they would give him if he signed his contract. So there is some level of circumventing the salary cap at some point with the Clippers. They are not completely innocent of that in Steve Ballmer's time. So there's certain things, right? You got fraud from a company, and then you also have the fact that Steve Ballmer has been fined by the NBA for doing that with DeAndre Jordan's contract.
Yeah, I mean that tells you that not to say just because they did that this is what happened, but their hands are not totally clean. It's happened to them before. They got in trouble. But yes, I think you do have to take that into account that this particular company was just really kind of fraudulent from the get-go. And the question is, did they kind of fool the Clippers as well? Or was it not really necessarily known that it was a fraudulent company, but did we just have this, so-and-so company be, an endorser of all these, celebs and athletes, and it just, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see because it's definitely something smells rotten, but we'll just see if it really was where the Clippers were really and Kawhi Leonard were fooled or not,
Yeah, for sure. And to me, it still takes me back to like Uncle Dennis, right? And think about his time in San Antonio. What happened there, right? There was a mysterious quad injury and how severe it was. You had Tony Parker come out and say, I had the same injury and I'm back, right? And that was kind of where Kawhi pretty much shut down, and the rest of the team was, especially Uncle Dennis and Kawhi's team were just completely done with San Antonio and wanted to get out of there by then. And then you have him kind of talking to the Toronto Raptors and how he negotiated some of that. So it is kind of interesting to see, there has been precedent, right? This has happened before, and it's the Joe Smith case with Minnesota. And essentially, when Joe Smith was a free agent in 1998, 3 years after he was drafted, he signed a 1-year deal with Minnesota, which was surprising already because you're having he wasn't necessarily a superstar, didn't kind of lead up or live up to those expectations yet, but he probably deserved more than a 1-year deal. But it was found that he agreed with Minnesota on the side that he would sign 3 1-year deals and then give Minnesota his bird rights so he can sign a deal for up to $87 million. David Stern came down heavy on that.
Mm-hmm.
He fined Minnesota $3.5 million. Glenn Taylor and Kevin McHale were suspended for a year. Joe Smith's contracts were voided, and they were stripped of 5 first-round draft picks, which eventually 2 of those picks were given back because of how severe the punishments were. But David Stern did not play about the integrity of the league, and he came down hard on them. So, what are your thoughts if this does come true? What do you think about Adam Silver and his response would be in the NBA?
That's definitely something to think about. We know a commissioner like David Stern. He did not put up with this kind of stuff, and he would have, if it's found to be true, somewhat. I think he would have brought the hammer. Remains to be seen what will happen with Adam Silver if it's as bad as it sounds at this point. It is interesting, kind of going back to Joe Smith, because when you start thinking about punishments and things like that, the only thing you can really look at is just past violations. And so this one's different, but it is still a kind of contract violation. So Joe Smith, yeah, he was a first pick in the draft, Golden State Warriors. Had a decent 2.5 years, but I was reading that he actually turned down like 80 plus million. So keep in mind, during this time, that was kind of more of like the close to the max. And so, yeah, it's pretty crazy that he took a pretty big gamble too, like a couple of years of $1 million deals. Like, I mean, what if something were to happen to him? So it's all crazy how that all went down. But it does go to show that that is a big problem, and it could come back to haunt him. I know they already don't have a lot of draft picks, but I assume it would be something down the line. And then kind of just to touch on Kawhi, he's always just kind of does his own thing, right? And beats to his own drum. And he's obviously when he's been out there, he's a great player, won a couple championships. But ever since that time in San Antonio, the way he kind of got to Toronto, the way he treated the free agency, how he's really, what he's done with the Clippers, not playing a lot of games, sitting out, really disappointing. And so, yeah, it's all just kind of come to head here. And he's got probably a couple solid years left in his career, but I just wonder what's going to happen if suspensions are in order, and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's some truth to that, right? Like how his career has unfolded, especially since he won the championship in Toronto, is almost, it can be career legacy ruining, right? Because there's a point when he was on top at Toronto and became that free agent, he's the top 3 player in this league, right? And Kawhi was just in high demand from every team. So now you're questioning, all right, he's had his issues with, it seems like he has his own team and he's going to go by his rules, especially when it comes to injuries and especially when it comes to how he manages his endorsement deals and everything like that. And so I think you're coming to a head right now where you're like, hey, this is the NBA and these are the rules. And if you're not really following those, might be a time that you might not be in this league, right? There can be some things that, if they're found guilty in these, he could be suspended, right? It could be one of those scenarios. I did look up whether or not what would happen in the NBA right now if they had some of these contract issues. And they said basically in the CBA with the unauthorized agreements, if it's the first violation, there can be a fine up to $4.5 million. They can forfeit 1 first-round draft pick, and contracts or transactions can be voided by the league. Now, if it's second violation, which I don't know where Ballmer and the Clippers kind of fall under, if this would be considered a second violation, the fine would be up to $7.5 million. A suspension up to 1 year for any team personnel that is found kind of willfully engaged in these violations. And the contracts can be avoided again as well. And then they can forfeit multiple draft picks.
Wow, man, that's great research, because from first occurrence to second occurrence, it's pretty steep. And since Clippers, believe that they had the one occurrence, yeah, we don't know if it's the same ownership group. I would imagine if it was a different ownership, it might be different, but different story, but it is the same. And so, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things, especially if the contract gets voided. Maybe Clippers would be happy about that. Who knows? But but all those fines and suspensions and all that and just bad press, bad pub, that wouldn't be good.
Eric, could you imagine this scenario? I'll give you this scenario right now. The Clippers are the oldest team in the NBA, actually, oldest team in the history of the NBA. Say all this is true. Kawhi's contract gets voided. The personnel is suspended for a year, and they lose, say, 3 to 5 draft picks, first-round draft picks. Now, even if this scenario didn't happen, you're already looking at this team you're going all in with James Harden and Kawhi and Bradley Beal. You got a 2-year window max. And then after that, you essentially don't have any draft picks from the Paul George trade with SGA. Could you imagine losing 3 to 5 more draft picks and how bad the Clippers would be for the next decade?
Yeah, it would be could be franchise changing, but because I know the Clippers kind of have the same similar plan with the Lakers. In 2 years, everybody's going to be off the books, and they look to be a big player in free agency. But try telling a free agent to come to you when you don't have any draft picks for 5 years, right? That's going to be a challenge in itself. So for the Clippers brass, Clipper fans, just I guess the league in general, hopefully this isn't as bad as it sounds, and hopefully they find that I don't know, it to be just a big coincidence, because I do see some steep punishment if it is found to be true. So we'll see what happens with them.
Yeah, time will tell. I know the Clippers brass came out with full denial. They've done everything by the book, and what are they supposed to say? Yes, we did it. So obviously you're going to get that generic statement, that PR statement saying that they have nothing to do with it. Time will tell, and the NBA will investigate it, and then we'll find out probably within the next couple months, I would assume.
Yeah, it's like one of those things. If you don't say anything, you're going to seem guilty. If you obviously say that you're guilty, it's not going to be good. And so, but I do know that if you have like a real big denial like that and it's found to be true, I think it's going to look worse for them. So see what happens, like you said, next couple months.
Yeah, for sure. And if everybody out there on the live on YouTube or Twitter, you guys have any comments on the situation, let us know. We'll answer them by the end of the show. Just give us a feedback on the Kawhi situation and what you guys think about it. We do have one comment right here. We got a show here because this is our man Cam.
Oh, Cam, what's up, man?
Laying in the ER waiting for surgery.
Oh,
Cam,
no.
I'm sorry to hear that. I hope everything is going to go well and smooth with you, and it's nothing too serious. All right, Cam, thanks for listening from the ER.
Hey.
That's a true dedicated fan, and we hoping nothing but the best for you, man.